All right, time to talk about the Grace Year. I have a couple of interesting things to say about this book. So yeah, if you saw my September 2022 wrap up, you know I really enjoyed this book. But now here we have its dedicated review. Let's start with the um um synopsis. I have it open right now. No one speaks of the Grace Year. It's forbidden. In Garner County, girls are told they have the power to lure grown men from their beds, to drive women mad with jealousy. They believe their very skin emits a powerful aphrodisiac, the potent essence of youth, of a girl on the edge of womanhood. That's why they're banished for their 16th year, to release their magic into the wild so they can return purified and ready for marriage. But not all of them will make it home alive. 16-year-old Tierney James dreams of a better life, a society that doesn't pit friend against friend or woman against woman. But as her own grace year draws near, she quickly realizes that it's not just the brutal elements they must fear, it's not even the poachers in the woods, men who are waiting for a chance to grab one of the girls in order to make a fortune on the black market. Their greatest threat may very well be each other. With sharp prose and gritty realism, the Gracier examines the complex and sometimes twisted relationships between girls, the women they eventually become, and the difficult decisions they make in between. So, I have mainly positive comments for this book. This book was a selection for a book club. I'm part of the Envisions College Success Program book club. If you are a college student who happens to be watching my videos, I would link this to the description, the Envision website to the description, but I'll link to it there so you can see it. But basically, Envision's College Success Program offers you resources to for school. It can, you can have like a mentor to talk to. They can give you ideas and what you might need. By the way, this is specifically for blind visually impaired viewers. If you're there, you can find the description. But basically, they give you a they you can sign up with a mentor. They give you, they help you out as best as they can. There is a they we meet up Tuesdays and Fridays where they're very casual and conversational, and you can ask any questions about college, that you might have, about classes, and so on and so forth. Their technology questions. Mainly, we keep it casual. And one of the things that they have is a book club. And for September 2022, the choice was The Grace Year by Kim Liggett. And it was great. It was great. It was really interesting to read. It was an interesting book. The prose definitely sharp and really really good, but it's also really accessible and very easy to read. The pacing was good. It was a really like slow build up in a way to what was happening, and even when we kind of were aware of what was happening, there was also just a slow pacing to uh 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 there was also hmm what was I gonna say? Okay, so they basically they it was in general the the okay, I got distracted because I heard noise upstairs in the second floor. But yeah, anyway, the thing I can say is that the prose was good, the pacing was good. It was kind of medium pace. Even when things kind of picked up, there were moments where of slowing down, where things felt kind of interesting and very, we got to spend some time with the characters and everything. I think Tierney as a character was well developed and well established as well. The arc that she goes through is amazing. It's very nice. It's a great arc. I think it's very satisfying. It's very easy to kind of root for her, and you kind of understand her decisions, as well as why she in the beginning kind of shows up very judgmental as well. There is so much in this book. There are a lot of themes put together in 416 pages, and I think they're explored pretty well. I think they're given enough time to breathe. We kind of get to see how it works, and how, and the decisions that they make. And another thing that this book I think does really well too is the ending. Now I will say the ending is very interesting, and it made me want a sequel, and I'll talk about it later because I wanna go into a what if scenario. And Now there is going to be some spoilers for that section, but for now everything will be spoiler free. So I did enjoy this book. I think it had a really good story, and yeah. So it made me want a sequel by the end. But the things that interesting things that I want to talk about that this book also did is it does give a lot of commentary on gender and society, more specifically related to women and society, and the way that society tends to treat women, and the way that gender roles still have, unfortunately, they still have a place today and still are enforced by certain people today. um and we see it's very realistic in a way. It is dystopia. This is a dystopian story, but it is very realistic to what society today kind of looks like, with, in a way. I mean, we're changing, but we're also, in certain areas, we are still regressing. For example, very recently, I don't know if anything will be codified by the time this is released, but very recently, in the United States, we have had a regress in freedom and independence. So in 1973, federal law was passed that gave women the right to abortions. It has a long history that I'm actually not up to talking about, because I don't have the full research in mind, and I had done it before, but I'd have to figure out how to summarize it correctly, and I don't always know how to do that properly. Hence why my videos are all rambles. So yeah. Anywho, basically, yeah, we have there that was a thing that was a law, and very recent it was known as Roe v. Wade, and very recently, in June of 2022, it was overturned, and the rights were given back to the states, and either half or more than half of the states, I can't be certain, basically have laws some of them prohibiting abortion. Some of them have specific restrictions, and so on. And that is a regress, just because women were allowed originally, to do this, and it was a federal right, that it was protected by federal law, and that is no longer the case, which is unfortunate, because not just women, but anyone with a uterus deserves that autonomy to decide how to do that. So while we are being achieving other things, while we are making certain things work, we are also regressing in other ways. And this society kind of shows, to me, it reminded me a little bit of, the whole Roe v. Wade thing, and how, if we are not careful, we could regress further and further and further and make women's lives very miserable, and they will be under men's control all over again. It kind of reminds me of a very extreme version of what we're in now, where to a certain degree it half feels like it's like after that whole Roe v. Wade stuff, it feels like there was a regress to back to like the 1970s and so on and 60s, where women didn't have that power, and now women have to continue fighting. Even today, when there is a certain amount of freedom, women still have to fight for the rights that are their rights. And women still have to fight for that. People with uteruses still have to fight for that. And not even just even women and people with uteruses, but anyone with any gender that doesn't fit the binary still has to fight for rights that they deserve. Basic human rights and courtesies, mind you. So there are moments when it does feel like we are regressing, and it doesn't feel like we have everything we need. And I think this also brings up a lot of gender commentary and the things that girls and women can go through growing up. I am not someone who currently identifies as a woman. I prefer to be unlabeled, if we're being honest. Pronouns are they, them. But I feel it kind of is interesting to talk about this, because I grew up as I grew up as a woman, and for 22 years I identified as a woman, and it wasn't until I kind of started questioning my gender and stuff like that I just didn't realize I don't feel comfortable with the label of woman at all. But I am feminine presenting, and I haven't told many people in my family or so on that I don't identify that way. It is important to me that I would tell them, but also I have a couple of complications in language barriers, so I haven't told them anything. But basically, I am still femme presenting, and there are things that, because I am a quote unquote woman, because they think I'm a woman, I'm putting this in quotes for me, that are still expected from me as a woman. And a big one is to have children. Like literally, they expect children. People expect children, and when I say I don't want to have children, their whole thing is, oh, but you need to have children for this reason or the other. Having children is a beautiful experience. It's a beautiful experience to you. Listen, I have nothing against children. I love my younger brother, whom I've taken care of for the last, for years. You know what I mean? I have taken care of him for years, and oh, sorry. I have taken care of him for years, and I love him so much. And I have nothing against children. I love children. I just don't want to have any. And people will give me all these reasons why I should, and I'm here like, I don't care. I don't want children. There are moments when I don't like children. There are moments I do. And in this society that we're in, the women are forced to produce children. And it's painful. It's hard to look at, to read this, when I know I myself, there are certain expectations for me as a woman. There are expectations for many women who who may not want certain things, and people somehow, if you're a woman, listen, as someone who grew up this way and who presents as a woman, sometimes being a woman fucking sucks. Okay, being a woman is like, it's not even, it's kind of like disability. Sometimes being disabled sometimes fucking sucks, and being a woman sometimes fucking sucks, because society sucks in that area, and it's really annoying, and it's a thing, and it brings a lot of clarity. It brings a lot into perspective women, their relationships, and the things that women think they have to do, and the way that society kind of makes us think these are the things we have to do. And it's heartbreaking, but it's also true. This is the kind of book I think people should read. Not just, I think people of all genders should read it, but then again, women especially, because I think this just makes something clear. This just talks a lot about like the relationships you think you need to have, and like the very complicated relationships women and girls have, and other complicated I think other complicated the other complications that are added on by society, and the complicated relationships that you can have with men as a woman, because I have a slight complication in a way. I have some I think complicated relationships with certain men in my family and certain women in my family. It's really interesting to kind of discuss. It's really hard to articulate my feelings if we're being like very honest about it. So this is where I want to talk about what if. I want to end this video on a really happy note. I don't want to end it on a really sad note. I want to end it on a happy note. So let's go into what if territory. I want to be a fan for a minute and go into what if territory. This part will contain spoilers, specifically more for the ending than not. It'll contain the spoiler for the ending, or at least my interpretation of what happened in the ending. So if you don't want to hear that, the time to go is now. I'm going to start in 3, 2, 1, go. So basically, after the Grace year, Tierney comes back with the other girls, and the ones that survived are married off. Tierney had been chosen by one of her friends, who she was mad at for choosing her and everything. But we find out something very interesting. She comes back pregnant, and the reason is that she kind of had an affair with another person. And the guy that chose her though lied and said it's his and mentioned all these reasons and so on and so forth. And she's married, she's stuck there, and for the longest time, she's kind of like traumatized, and she's like walking through town doing all this. And what's interesting about this ending is that they talk about like change, what occurs within change, and all the fun stuff. But she gives birth by the end. And the interpretation I have at the end is that she dies during childbirth. So my question, I think, is for you, the reader / viewer, if you've read this book, what if there was a sequel? What would happen if there was a sequel? Now I have a feeling that things could change, or that things could stay the same. So one of the things that this book has is a bunch of dream sequences where Tierney is dreaming of someone who looks very similar to her, and it turns out it's her daughter she's kind of been dreaming about, and who she names Grace. I think Grace Riker and Jones? I can't remember the last name. But basically she basically like names her Grace, and she's like, you are gonna be the one to change, like she's gonna be the one to change the world. Now, if my interpretation is right and Tierney dies during childbirth, the thing is that when someone's wife is someone's wife dies and everything, you would be expected to take another wife. And usually I think it's someone from what I can see, it would be someone it's in the current grace year. So like you would be basically taking a young wife. Now, talking about the grace year is forbidden. So she will most likely be raised by the guy who was her friend, whose name I genuinely forgot, right? And she'll be raised there. The question is, would the daughter be told about the Grace Year and all the messed up shit that happens in that county toward women? Would she, because like Tierney specifically was allowed to dream of a better life. Like her parents, she was raised in unique circumstances. Would said unique circumstances continue for Grace? And because talking about the Grace Year is forbidden, will the new wife talk to her about the Grace Year? I feel like they wouldn't, but then when she goes on her own Grace Year, she might have the knowledge to survive and find out. But from there, what would she do? Would the daughter talk about the events of the Grace Year to people? Like, would she like let it out or everything, and say no, there's no magic. It's a complete lie to break all of us, because that's what it is. It is a thing to break people. And it's also one of the things that this book does too, is that it talks about, like, you know, that women can, that they believe that young girls have like that power of luring men from their beds. This is very similar to me. It reminded me of the arguments that rapists make when they assault another woman, which is that they wanted it, they dressed this way, they were asking for it, and blah blah blah. That kind of stuff just reminds me of an argument made by a rapist. So would they then continue to tell Grace, like would they tell Grace the truth, or would she be filled with lies until she goes on her own Grace Year and realizes this whole stuff's fucked up, and then decides to do something about it? I'm assuming, since the guy has so much love for Tierney, he'll probably at least talk to her about Tierney and stuff like that. But the question still remains. So if you've read the book, let me know in the comment sections. What do you think would happen if there was a sequel? Also, let me know your thoughts on the Grace Year. And with that, I will leave you. But until next time, consider subscribing to my channel and my blog, which you'll find in the description, along with the Blind Reviews playlist and other series. Also, next week I'll be back with a review on a podcast called See You in Your Nightmares. I will explain everything. It's weird because I never review podcasts here. I do love podcasts, but I will explain the reason I'm reviewing it next week. And with that, until next time, everybody, consume stories. Bye!